If you're wondering why I look like this, it's because it's Black History Month, people. Do you know what that means? It's time to learn. It's time to find out more about your roots. Every time this year, we spend a lot of time doing research, just getting to know, the Black culture. And I am starting a Black History series. So this will be the very first video. So stay on the lookout. Every Thursday, I'll be posting a new video with new information that I find personally. Let's jump into this. Almost everyone knows Martin Luther King was assassinated years and years ago. And it has been said that the bullet is what killed him.
I'm here to debunk that theory.
There are books out here that tell us otherwise, written by a Mr. William Pepper. William Pepper was a human rights lawyer, and he's been doing research for nearly 4 decades, which means he's been working about 40 years. That's a really long time to be doing research. So what I'm going to tell you today is how everything he put in that book could be true. I don't know. He leaves it up to the readers to decide what they think is right and what they think is wrong. With William's research, we find out that the bullet isn't what killed King at all. Apparently, this whole conspiracy was set up by no other than J. Edgar Hoover at the time, who was in charge of the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover enlisted the help of the U.S. military, Memphis police, and the Dixie Mafia, who at the time was a very big gang in Memphis. Pepper has written 3 books on this subject matter, all 3 of which are based on the death of Dr. King and how he didn't die because of the one book that hit him. I will put the links to the books below, or I'll have them up here somewhere. Anyway, James Earl Ray is the killer that we have thought to have been the killer this entire time. Turns out he was just the patsy or the fall guy. Memphis PD fired the fatal shot that killed Dr. King. If you see me keep looking down, it's because I'm trying to read my cue cards. I had to get a little bit organized. But there were 2 military teams for backup in case the first shot didn't do the trick. Pepper, the author of these books, was able to speak to the leader of the military outlet at this particular time. And it turns out pictures were actually taken during the time of the murder. The next part of this story happens at the St. Joseph Hospital in Memphis. This was the hospital King was sent to at the time of his untimely death. This story was told to Pepper by the son of a nurse who worked that particular night. This particular night, the doctors were working as hard as they could to keep King alive when the head of surgery, Mr. Breen Bland, entered the ER with 2 men in suits. Breen Bland then got irritated and frustrated, and he told everyone to stop working. He ordered everyone out of the room, and he told them to let that N-word die. Breen Bland and the 2 men in suits spit on Dr. King and removed his breathing tube. At this particular time, Bland then held a pillow over King's head, and that was the final blow to end his life. Another source of this important information was the son of the leader of the Dixie Mafia that was also in charge of making sure King's death really happened. Ron Atkins, the leader's son, he remembers his father talking to their family doctor, which happened to be Breen Bland.
That name sounds very familiar.
This is the same man that smothered Dr. King. Ron Atkins was only 16 years old at the time that all of this occurred, but he vaguely remembers every time his father went to visit a Mr. Clyde Tolson. Clyde Tolson was J. Edgar Hoover's right-hand man. Clyde often gave cash to Ron's father in big sums. Russell Atkins Sr., the leader of the Dixie Mafia and Ron's father, carried out odd jobs for Hoover and were paid for every one of them. Ron also stated that 2 reverends who were with King that night were paid to give little hints about King's whereabouts. Those 2 were Samuel Kyles and Jesse Jackson. April 4th, 5:50 p.m. This is the time Samuel Cowles knocked on King's door and told him it was time to go to dinner that had been planned already. Around this time, Cowles walked 60 feet away from King's door, even after King had already came out of the room. King walked out of his room around 6 o'clock. A black group that was supposed to be in this same hotel this very night were told that their stay was no longer covered by the Christian leadership. Apparently, this call was made by Jesse Jackson. Another call made by Jesse Jackson was King's room be switched to the outside. King's original room was located on the inner side, meaning it was more secure and more safe. Jesse ordered his room to be switched to an outside balcony room. When the shooting occurred, Jackson was waiting downstairs at the pool for Dr. King and Cowles. Memphis PD only had a few black officers, and this particular day, they were told not to come in. Emergency support units were also held back, and the few black EMTs that did exist were told not to come into work. A black detective was also told that he should stay home on this particular day because there was a threat made against his life. 1 minute after King left his room, the shot was fired. The shot went through his jaw and hit his spinal cord. He was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead at around 7 p.m. The official story states Ray shot him from the tub of a place across the way, but many witnesses say they saw the shot come from a bush below. A particular cab driver who was on duty that night, Mr. Buddy Butler, he reported seeing it coming from a bush, and he reported seeing a man leaving the scene. He reported it to his higher ups, which was then reported to the police department. And within a couple days, Buddy Butler was found dead. The owner of the place that Ray supposedly shot King from, he was also involved. He was paid to hide the murder weapon after it all occurred. Mr. Lloyd Jowers. Lloyd Jowers, after being found out, of course, he was tried. The shooter that we all know as to be King's killer, James Earl Ray. Ray was in prison about a year before all of this occurred due to many breakout attempts, which all failed. He felt, I'm not gonna get out of here. But the one time he did break out completely, the warden was paid to allow him to leave. While he was out, he met a man named Raul. Raul became Ray's mentor, more or less. Raul began giving Ray these orders such as buying a gun, where to go, where to live. That's how he was set up. Raul told Ray to buy the particular gun that King was murdered with. The shooter was later identified as a Memphis PD officer by the name of Frank Strasser. I think I said that correctly. He was identified by a custodian working for them at this time. The witness said that he often saw him practicing in a shooting range with the exact rifle that we know King was shot with. In conclusion, if you want to know more about this story and dive deeper than I did, it is very possible. I will drop the link to the article that I was researching. I will drop the links to the books below as well. It is a very interesting story once you dive into it. I plan to read the book soon. Peace out.
Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, aggravation, everybody allegation in the suit on the news. Everybody dog